Welcome back to GAA Fan TV. My name is Aaron. Delighted to be joined here once again by Matthew Hurley of the GAA Statsman podcast. We're going to run through all the weekend's championship action. Certainly a lot of surprises, a lot of big results that happened across the country and, well, outside the country in our neighbours across the pond in New York, who obviously sealed a famous win versus Leitrim. And definitely a lot to run through. And I suppose looking at the results at the weekend, Matthew, it's fair to say the championship is well and truly back. And if we can get more weekends like this in terms of results and games going down to the wire, like even seeing the Offaly Longford game went down to the wire, Clare Cork goes down to the wire, Mayo Roscommon, we might be in for one hell of a championship.
Yeah, exactly. So, and thanks for having me on your show again, Aaron. Yeah, it was a interesting enough weekend here. Definitely the New York game definitely caught the eye last night. I was thinking, okay, one of them is going to win over normal time and maybe it'll be a point victory, a bit like the Sligo game last year, but it turned into a miraculous game, really. Went all the way to penalties, exciting. And not to mention, it was 2 o'clock in the morning and I was basically snug in my bed when the action was happening at the penalty shootout. So, yeah, it was a brilliant entertainment for late night GA action. Was absolutely brilliant. And today, I suppose Cork losing. I went to the game against Clare and disappointing loss, but I suppose it's great to see on the Sunday game that the attention's kind of taken off Cork with that win for New York and a bit with the Roscommon win again against Mayo as well, and with other championship games as well. So definitely looking forward to getting stuck into it.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I suppose, like they say, the provincial championships doesn't mean that much anymore. And there's definitely still flaws there with the group stages and everything else, in my opinion. But when you see some of those results, when you've seen the scenes at full time after the penalty shootout in Gaelic Park when New York beat Leitrim, and even the Roscommon fans as well, like Davy Burke going absolutely mental on the sidelines. I didn't see any scenes from the Clare Cork game, but I'm sure Colm Collins was absolutely, jumping with delight when he got that win as well. So, look, it's fair to say that the provincial championships, they still mean a whole lot, despite what some people say.
Exactly. And to paint the scene about the Clare boys, like Owen Cleary, you could see him on GAA, that same page. He was crying and crying with joy, really. I think Keaton Sexton was with him as well. It was a brilliant moment. Colm Collins was embracing the fans as well. And the fans were absolutely jumping for joy in the stand that I was in as well. It was absolutely packed, that stand. So I think the Clare fans were absolutely overjoyed, despite the fact that the hurlers are doing pretty well, reaching the Munster final last year, but still there's a good enough showing for the footballers, for their fans, so pretty good showing from them. I didn't see much of the Roscommon support against Mayo. I only saw a bit of highlights on GAA now, and it looked like there was a load of Roscommon support there anyway, and obviously I seen the New York scenes last night. It was absolutely mental stuff there in Gaelic Park. So yeah, the provincials, they definitely mean something, and to be honest, when you look at all the games in overall sense, I think only Sligo's win over London and probably Armagh's win over Antrim towards the end anyway were probably comprehensive. The rest were in the balance right until the very last minute, and it's great to see, really. But I suppose the proof will be in the pudding for the provincial championships once we have Kerry, Dublin, Galway possibly in a kind of final coming to the fore in the next few weeks.
Absolutely. And I suppose, as you said there, we'll start with the game, obviously, in Castlebar. Mayo 10 points, Roscommon 2-8. Roscommon turning over Mayo in their own backyard in Castlebar. A result that not many people seeing coming. I know the fact that, these two were not far away from each other in terms of the league, in terms of how both sides finished in the league. But for Roscommon to go away to Mayo, beat them in their own backyard, do it in the way that they did it, especially after all the hype that's been around Mayo in the last couple of weeks. What a win and what a day to be a Roscommon fan.
It is definitely. And I suppose when you look at the scores from the outset, Roscommon only had 4 different scores, and you were thinking, how are they going to win this game? And Mayo definitely had to spread the scores across the field, but the 2 goals really changed it. The penalty probably was a foot block at the end of the day, and well taken by Andy Smith at the end. And then Donny Smith's goal, a bit of a scramble, but it was in the back of the net, and Roscommon took them 2 goals at the half-time break. Then Mayo started to make a comeback. You think, okay, Mayo, they're starting to do it. But then Dermot Morta, Conor Cox, they start to stand up for Roscommon. And it was the difference at the end. Pretty good showing from them. And Roscommon are a team that you won't be taking lightly this year. Like, they lost to Clare under tough circumstances last year in Croke Park, but again, we've seen Clare the last few years, and especially today, how good they are. So maybe we were a bit too hard on Roscommon last season, and maybe they can seriously make a push for an All-Ireland semi-final. But for Mayo, bit of a wake up to reality, in all honesty, Aaron. Like, we said last week, this Mayo team is absolutely flawless, which, like, there's still some good elements about the Mayo team, in fairness to them. But at the same time, like, losing the Roscommon today, it will definitely put them back just a small bit. But I suppose they'll go into the All-Ireland group now, pot 3, which is still going to be tough. But let's say they're in a scenario where the pot 1 side that comes out will be Tyrone, and Mayo absolutely tied with them in the league. I don't think Mayo will necessarily panic then. So it's not a situation where you just press the panic button for Mayo just yet, but it is big cause for concern. And Kevin McStay will definitely go back into the training ground. Maybe it's a blessing in disguise as well for Mayo, because let's not forget, in the league, it was week on, week off, week on, week off, and it was relentless. They now have, I think, until the end of May before their next game in the All-Ireland group stage. So maybe Kevin McStay will use that time to, recuperate the team and get them in bonding sessions, or what Kerry were doing last week in Portugal, possibly. So maybe there's a good sign that Mayo lost this Connacht title, but at the same time, yes, it's a difficult loss for Mayo to take, and obviously they don't win the Connacht title this year. But all saying that, Roscommon, brilliant victory for them.
Yeah, definitely was. Like, and even looking at their performance, like, it reminded me so much of when Derry beat Tyrone last year. Like, that's kind of same performance. Like, they sat in, they ran the ball with pace, they waited for the right moments. They were just, they were intent on scoring goals in the first half, and mainly because of the weather and the conditions in Castlebar. Like, it was very tough, and Mayo struggled with it hugely in the second half. We're trying to run it through the middle probably too much, whereas Roscommon got a lot more joy with it, I felt, in the first half. But yeah, like, that energy, that intent, and like the Davy Burke blueprint is all over this side, in my opinion. You can just see how well coached they are. Like, even in that first half, like, Roscommon were just not panicking. They were not panicking. They weren't shooting from distance. Like, I think I've seen a statistic at halftime. They created, I think, 5 scoring chances in the first half and scored 4 of them, and 2 of them were goals. Like, they weren't shooting from ridiculous angles. They weren't, overplaying the ball, and they just looked down to an absolute tee. And yeah, like for Davy Burke to have this sort of an impact so early on and get the team playing like that, like, the sky's the limit, really, I think.
And even watching the highlights of the background here, like, it looked like a terrible day weather-wise as well, like the wet conditions. Yeah. So that makes that statistic even more incredible, really, because usually when a team is shooting from ridiculous angles, or even from respectable angles in them sort of conditions, they usually go wide. So for Roscommon to hit four points out, or 4 scores, should I say, out of a possible 5 attempts, that's an incredible statistic in fairness to Roscommon. And it probably just shows like Davy Burke has the team more settled now. He has them more calm. And in fairness, they're shooting well in good positions. They probably weren't last year, which was probably their downfall against Clare and Croke Park. But this season, it's a totally changed Roscommon team. And I think they're going to go places this year. Will they beat Galway in that semi-final in Connacht? I'm not entirely sure. It's going to be a difficult ask. But at the same time, like, this will give them a load of confidence even to go into the All-Ireland group with their tails up, in fairness to them. And even look at the highlights here. Like, even when Mayo were attacking them relentlessly in the second half, Roscommon didn't panic then either. They still got the ball. They got into the right positions in the second half. Conor Cox kicked a lovely score at the end of the game as well. And Roscommon won it in the end. And fair play to them. And they utterly deserved this game. A lot of people doubted Roscommon, including myself, yourself, I'd imagine, Aaron, as well. And they proved the doubters wrong, in fairness to them. And Davy Burke's troops are going to rally on this summer.
Absolutely. Like, and when you look at it, like a lot of us obviously backed. I think I backed Mayo to win the All-Ireland before this weekend. You backed them to win it as well, I'm pretty sure. There was definitely a lot of hype in the media, a lot of people sort of talking them up, and rightly so. Like, they won the league. I know some people are getting annoyed that Mayo are being hyped up, but like, I think it's deservedly so, like, based off what they've done in the league and the squad that they have. the All-Ireland finalists a couple of years ago. So they are a serious team. But from a Roscommon point of view, for them to go to Castlebar, beat them in their own backyard, like, I'm not saying Roscommon now are going to win the All-Ireland or anything like that, but where does that put them in that conversation? I know it's a little bit different because Roscommon's record in Croke Park isn't great, but when you look at it, like, you look at them and think they might win the All-Ireland. I'm not saying that, but they have to be in the conversation now, surely.
When you look at them league rankings, I posted on my Instagram a few weeks ago. Check it out if you haven't already, by the way. But if you look at that, Roscommon are actually third in that. They're behind Galway and Mayo. Like, they're still a big enough team when you look at it. And when you look at their players all over the field as well, you have Bill O'Carroll, or Ben O'Carroll, should I say, excellent forward. Conor Cox, who didn't contribute much in the league, but still pops up with brilliant scores. Hint shown on Sunday, brilliant score from him. Like, there was a plethora of good performances from Roscommon and fairness, and Brian Stack at centre backs, an excellent player, probably one of the best centre backs in the country at this particular moment. And let's not forget, Ultan Harney left the panel for Roscommon. I think it was the end of last year, and he was their star man. And you were thinking Roscommon are going to go backwards without this guy, but it seems like Roscommon are actually getting better without Ultan Harney. And Ultan Harney is an unbelievable player. Make no mistake about that. Dermot Murtagh, Kieran Murtagh, Enda Smith, Donny Smith. There's a camaraderie with Roscommon as well. Not just the quality, but they're all together in this as well. And I think Roscommon would definitely have a very good summer. Beating Galway, I think the game, I'll have to look at this again now, Aaron, but I think the game is in Salt Hill. If it is, that's going to be a difficult game for Roscommon. So, it would be difficult, but then again, like, nobody fancied them going to Castlebar and winning today. They did. So, Roscommon will definitely fancy their chances. And there's a load of examples in the GAA where records are just gone within an instant. Like, I was listening to Shane Dowling on the Late Late Show. I know this is completely different hurling and stuff like that, but Limerick were a team perennial bottlers from they hadn't won All Ireland since 1973. Then they win the All Ireland in 2018. Why can't Roscommon break their Croke Park hoodoo this year? So I think Roscommon are definitely in the right place to do it. They have the right players, they have the right manager, they have the right team unity, and I think they'll definitely go places this year. A lot of people are ranking Roscommon very high because of their players last year and not thinking about the other elements. But all the elements are glued together now, this Roscommon team, and I think they'll definitely have a very good year. And on Mayo, I don't think it's a reason to panic for Mayo because of how good Roscommon have been today.
Yeah, I think so as well. Like, and I suppose when you look at it from a Mayo perspective, like, as you said, this defeat could do one of two things. It could reinvigorate them, give them time off, give them a break, which I think is needed. Even though they have a big enough squad, they've had a lot of games over the last couple of weeks. They haven't had a break. They now have a long enough break until the end of May. And ultimately as well, like, for Mayo, at the end of the day, the Connacht Championship is great and all, but the big one for them is the All-Ireland. Like, that's the one that they want. And obviously beating Roscommon, beating Galway would have been great preparation for those group stages, and it would have given them the best possible chance of getting out of the group going in as a pot one team. But at the same time, it also has the potential to derail their season a little bit, because things have been, this is the first defeat for Kevin McStay as manager. Second defeat, is it? Oh yeah, after the Monaghan game, actually. Yeah, sorry. But obviously in that game, it was a fairly rotated side, and it was, it wasn't the strongest team he put out, and it certainly didn't have the makings of the Mayo team that were out there today. So when you look at it, like, it could have the potential to derail their season and disrupt them a little bit. So what way do you think it could go from here?
I think it could be a blessing in disguise for them. Like, it's going to be a long break for them. Like, as I said earlier on the chat here, Kerry went on team bonding holiday last week. I think it was in Portugal. Like, Mayo could do the exact same, and it will definitely invigorate them. Like, they've been up until today, Mayo were the most flawless team in the country, in my opinion. You look at Dermot O'Connor, Matthew Rowan in midfield, Cillian O'Connor. Cillian O'Connor still got a point today, let's not forget, off the bench. You still have Tommy Conroy starting. You still have Ryan O'Donoghue. Norm still on the bench, still trying to get into the team. Aidan O'Shea, I think, still scored today. He did, yes. So, so very good performances from all over the field, even though they lost today. So, like, I honestly think it's just the fact that Roscommon just were more hungry. they were more hungry for a Connacht title. Mayo, as you rightly said, they're going for the All-Ireland, and good luck to them. And I think they definitely still have a chance. Today is not going to define their season. Like, a lot of people would be pointing at us saying, well, what about Tyrone last year? There was a bit of a difference. Tyrone got hockeyed by Derry last year, embarrassed. Today, Roscommon were just a better team. And Mayo actually put it up to them in the second half. And they could have easily won it on another day, but Roscommon just were driven to get the victory. And that was the difference between the two sides today. But Mayo, I definitely give them hope. You look at the players, look at their form in the league, and that would suggest they're going places. And the break will do them a whole load of good, I think. And I think they'll do pretty good things in the next few weeks. But they have 3 games now to fix their season. And I think Mayo and Kevin McStay will definitely be on course to do that. And I think if they get drawn, best case scenario, probably with an Ulster champion. Let's just say it's Tyrone, Derry, possibly. I think Mayo could definitely fancy their chances of topping that group. And then that's another break then towards an All-Ireland quarter-final. So the jigsaw puzzle for an All-Ireland title can fit good together for Mayo. And maybe this defeat could be a blessing in disguise for them.
Yeah, and I suppose as Mayo fans will even say as well, like, I mean, the years in 2016 and 2017 were probably the 2 closest times they came to winning the All-Ireland, and on both of those occasions they crashed out of the Connacht Championship quite early on as well. I suppose moving on then, I suppose, to the game, as we were saying on Saturday night, it was one of the most mental, most bizarre games of Gaelic football I've honestly ever seen. I certainly never expected to be, as you said, like, you know, cozied up all in bed watching this game with the headphones on and everything at 20 to 3 in the morning, and to see New York pull out the victory on penalties. I mean, 15 points apiece, and New York pull off history. First time ever they win a championship game. Incredible
scenes. And you just have to look at those scenes on the Sunday game tonight, or on Sunday night, to describe that. It was absolutely astonishing scenes, really. And when you look at the overall game, when you break it down statistically, I know it's kind of hard with the emotion and all that attached with New York, but New York deserved it. Like, you look at their scores there, like a load of scores, especially I want to mention as well, Conn Lahern coming on to the bit. I know Shane Carty probably deservedly got man of the match. He was absolutely excellent this morning, should I say, Sunday morning at this stage. But Conn Lahern came on 4 place balls. He kicked 100% of them. That was superb. He came on at half-time for Mikey Brosnan, who himself scored a brilliant point in the first half. And Mikey Brosnan as well, American, born and bred, and kicks that winning penalty. Like, you couldn't have scripted it really hard. It's absolutely incredible story there. Adrian Varley didn't have probably his best game, as you were saying in your match reaction earlier on today. But at the same time, he still picked up 2 points in fairness to him. Like, Daniel O'Sullivan was almost like a jack in the box on top of corner forward. He was excellent all over the field. Brilliant player. Mikey Cunningham in goal, Mikey Brosnan, Jack Riley off the bench, Mark Ellis, a guy from Cork. I thought they were absolutely brilliant, New York, and definitely deserved their victory. And a lot of people are ranting and raving maybe about how bad Leitrim did and their scoring statistics. Like Morris Brosnan pointed that out from my stats last night. I think it was 28% shooting accuracy from play, which isn't good enough really to win a game. But let's make no mistake about it. This morning was all about New York. Outstanding performance, and fair play to them for winning the game. And yeah, it's an incredible moment. And who would have said, Aaron, that we would have been experiencing GAA history at about 3 o'clock in the morning? It's incredible. And it's an incredible moment that we cherish. And we are living in history at the moment. And a brilliant victory for New York. And congratulations to every single one of the panel there.
Yeah, like it was just mad, wasn't it? Watching it all unfold. And like, the thing was, like, obviously Leitrim were going in as favourites, as it always usually is. But when you actually seen the New York side and you seen the players that were lining out, and I didn't know Shane Carty was going to be playing, but when I seen him out on the pitch, I was thinking, this New York side, like, this is probably the best team that New York have ever had, off the top of my head, from thinking back through the years. I mean, you've got an All-Ireland winner in there in Shane Carty, who was unlucky probably and for different reasons couldn't make the breakthrough with Dublin, and obviously he's openly spoke about that in the past. You've got Bill Maher, who's been a part of some brilliant Tipperary sides and probably part of Tipperary's history in more ways than one. You've got Johnny Glynn, former Galway hurler, Mark Ellis, former Cork hurler. You've got like so many inter-county players and stars like all across the field. Adrian Varley as well. Now, fair enough, a lot of these players are probably like, you know, coming towards the end of their playing days, you would say, you know, some of them anyway, not all of them, but like, and here they are playing for New York, and it was just one of those things you looked at and thought, could New York get it to click? Could they get it to happen on the day? Could they get that little bit of luck? And they did, and you know, they capitalized on Leitrim's misfortunes, and what a day it was for every New York fan in that stadium.
Yeah, incredible scenes. And fella worth noting as well, two Galway men especially, Johnny Glynn in midfield, absolutely excellent fielding. You didn't think he'd have this in his locker, being such a great hurler. Like, I remember him scoring a brilliant goal against Cork in Semple Stadium, Thurles 2015. But you didn't know he had that in his locker as a footballer. It was incredible to watch, really. And Owen Kern, I think he did an excellent job on, I think he was on Tom Pryor I think he was on Tom Pryor this morning, and he was absolutely superb. And yeah, they played as a team, in fairness to them, New York, and you wouldn't have expected that considering they didn't play competitive games against like a Leitrim or Sligo or Mayo or whatever. Ever really in the last few months, like maybe the Offaly game kind of stood to them as well in the Tailteann Cup last season. The fact they went over to Ireland, experienced playing in the Tailteann Cup that time, and got to play Offaly in that game. And yeah, in fairness to New York, they pulled off the result. And credit to Johnny McGeaney, who set out a plan, and he definitely got it over the line. And what you see with underdogs usually is they usually park the bus and play conservative football. New York went for it. They went from the very off, and it worked for them. In all fairness to them, they played excellent style of football, and they deserved it. Absolutely deserved it, in fairness to them. And yeah, on Leitrim a small bit, because even Sweeney came on and got 3 points. Like, in fairness to him, he was the one guy that you were thinking, okay, he's taking the mantle to New York here, and New York could be in a bit of trouble here. But Keith Bird, as Mayor's got 9 points as well, Mark Plunk got 2 points. Like, they played well in trying to get Leitrim up and running. And as well as that Shane Carty point in the last minute of normal time, what a score. What a score to get its extra time. It was an incredible score. You could see how he won them 2 All-Irelands as a Dublin there. You know, he has that in his locker to get the scores at the crucial moments. Brilliant play from him, and brilliant ending to brilliant fairy tale.
Yeah, like ice in the veins, like to pop that one over, especially with it being on the line. It was the last kick of the ball. If he had missed that, the ref would have blew it up, and Leitrim would have came away with the victory. So, you know, a special point there. And I suppose, like, obviously we've seen Sligo win earlier today as well. We'll get onto that a little bit later. But I mean, seeing New York now going to Sligo, I think it's going to be in Markievicz Park. Correct me if I'm wrong. We'll see what's going on there. But like, looking at it for New York, I mean, they nearly beat Sligo last year. That was in Gaelic Park, in fairness. Like, you look at it now, them going to Markievicz Park, like, it's going to be a huge ask, like making the trip over to Ireland. You know, obviously it's them who's doing the travel this time around. Sligo have probably kicked on a bit more since last year as well. So it goes without saying, I think the majority of people would fancy Sligo to do it. But even the thought that New York could end up in a Connacht final is mental. And if they were to beat Sligo, them then going into the group stage, like I even said in the match reaction earlier, there's a world where New York could end up playing Dublin and Croke Park. Like, and that's, you know, like the fact that New York now have this opportunity is crazy. And look, I've got nothing against Sligo, but I would love to see New York do it and get to a Connacht final. I think it would probably go down as one of the greatest GAA stories of all time if it happened.
I think we all would, to be honest. Like, I know Sligo, I have a lot of time for Sligo people. They're a brilliant community there. They have brilliant players like Niall Murphy, Pat Spillane, brilliant players. But at the same time, what a story would be for New York to reach the final. And it's kind of like, remember London reaching the Connacht final in 2013? remember when we all got behind London to get that kind of final? They eventually got Mayo in the final, and eventually they could see the 5 goals. I think Cillian O'Connor got a hat-trick. But again, that was a brilliant achievement for London. They got to Croke Park. And imagine New York being in Croke Park, and it's no a possibility. You know, it's an incredible story. It really is. And fair play to the New York players. As you said rightly there, he's going to be a big ask if they are in Barkovich Park. I've seen Gavin Cawley's tweet earlier on today, and he said it's a definite that Sligo are playing New York in Barkovich Park, and he's a Sligo journalist, well-established Sligo journalist. So if he's saying that, it probably is true. So it's going to be a very, very big ask for New York. But again, like the Offaly game last year, like they had the experience of going out to Ireland last year. I know they got a bit of a hockeying off Offaly, but they still got the experience of going over there. You would think the second time round against a team that is slightly, like Offaly are slightly better than Sligo, less not crust around it whatsoever. So maybe there is hope there for New York to pull off the unthinkable. I think Sligo will be too strong ultimately. We'll get to Sligo in a minute, but like New York, it's definitely not among the realms of possibility, and they're in a Connacht semi-final for a reason, unless they could be in the Sam Maguire Cup, and that'd be an absolutely incredible achievement for everyone involved over in New York. I could see Larry McCarthy's post last night as well. He looked absolutely emotional wreck as well, and it was brilliant scenes, and that may continue for New York GAA.
Yeah, and as you were saying there about Leitrim, like obviously I've seen a lot of people coming in criticising Leitrim, some people saying it was the worst championship performance they'd ever seen. I even seen Colin Parkinson of Smaller Fish GAA, really sort of putting it into Andy Moran and saying like things aren't working out, and Leitrim have gone backwards since the days of when Terry Hyland was there. Like what's your sort of take on that in terms of Leitrim? Like, I mean, it was like, I think at the same time you have to give New York loads of credit, but like, I don't know. Like, I personally didn't think Leitrim played that bad, but what was your opinion?
I didn't think they played particularly bad either, to be honest, looking at it. But as Morris Brosnan actually mentioned, he quoted my stats and saying, when's the last time, he asked me this question now personally, when was the last time some team had a 28% score accuracy from play? I had to dig through the archives for that, but eventually I found, I'm sorry to offend any Meath fans now, but Meath's performance against Dublin in 2019 was actually worse. They converted 18% from play, 80% overall, so that's way worse than Leitrim achieved. But yeah, I've seen Colin Parkinson's tweet as well. Kind of harsh on Andy Moore, because when you look at it, even last season, they lost in penalties to Sligo when they were wrongfully penalised for a square ball. Leitrim should have won that game. They should have maybe got more time in the league as well, and if they got more time in the league, they could have easily went up to Division 3 as well. So it's kind of a situation where Andy Moore has just not got the look as Leitrim manager, in my honest opinion. I don't know what anybody else thinks of that, but I just think it's down to luck rather than him being a bad coach or whatever. It is Andy Moore. It's his first job, and he definitely deserves some, a bit of empathetic sympathy. But to be honest, like, I know Colin Parkinson, he has his own podcast and stuff like that, but he's not exactly, and I think you'll agree with this, Aaron, I don't think he's the most empathetic guy in the GAA when you think about it. See what the Eddie Brennan incident with Laois as well a few years ago. So, it's trying to get likes and stuff like that. But I think Andy Moore is still doing a decent job as Leitrim manager. They still have 3 games guaranteed in Tailteann Cup. They still have time to turn their season around. And generally, I just think the story was New York, and the story should be still about New York and how much of an incredible story that was.
Yeah, like, and you forget, like, as well, like the Leitrim team has changed quite a bit since Andy Moran's came in, and since the days of Terry Hyland. Like, I think there's been 9 or 10 changes in terms of the panel, like a huge turnover in terms of their starting 15. I think only maybe 3 or 4 of them are still in the team. Keith Byrne obviously being one of them. Like, the likes of your Ryan O'Rourke's, your Emlyn Mulligans, like, these lads aren't in the team anymore, aren't in the squad. I think Ryan O'Rourke might be injured, or he's knocking around maybe on the bench here and there, but he hasn't been involved this season, like, in terms of the starting 15. So, it's a young side like Jack Heslin, Tom Pryor, Barry McNulty, Evan Sweeney. Like, these lads are young players, and making the trip over to New York, like, it's it's a long journey. It's a long journey, and that atmosphere was tough. Like looking at it on the on the laptop, like yesterday, it looked like a tough atmosphere, and it's a tough atmosphere for a young player after making that trip over. And again, Leitrim, they wouldn't have known what they were coming up against in terms of New York. Like New York only announced their team, during the week. So like it would have been very hard for Andy Moore and Leitrim to prepare for that game, especially when it wasn't too long ago they came off the back of an intense league as well. So I do think I'd agree with you as well. I think for any Leitrim fans, to be fair, I think most Leitrim fans wouldn't be going mad at their team. But I think for any fans that were looking at it and thinking Leitrim this or Leitrim that, you need to look at it and think there's more, there's more context than what actually happened, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it's difficult really to criticize Andy Moore when you put the facts and the stats, everything up on the table. It is kind of difficult. And you mentioned the youngsters in that Leitrim team. I think Darren Farrell actually mentioned last night Barry McNulty, number 25, that came on. He's 18 years of age. Usually 18-year-olds are doing, preparing for the leaving cert, not preparing to go to the Big Apple and play a GAA game, an intense atmosphere as well, as you mentioned. So you have to put that into consideration as well. As you said, Evan Sweeney as well with 3 points. And yeah, Ryan O'Rourke was on my podcast, I think a couple of years ago now at this stage, and he was saying that hopefully Leitrim will win a Connacht title. The dream is still there for them. He's probably, I don't know, he definitely wouldn't have left the panel because he's definitely a committed lad, Ryan. But I think there might have been just an injury problem maybe with him. I don't know what it is with him, but they still have brilliant players. Like Keith Byrne with 9 points last night, Evan Sweeney 3 points off the bench. I just think it was the hostile atmosphere. And as you mentioned in previous podcasts as well, jet lag maybe is a thing as well. That Leitrim just warmed up to the fight, and that was about it. And it went down to penalty shootouts. A penalty shootout to lose a game. And Andy Moore, like, when you think about, like, I was thinking about this morning as well. Leitrim lost in a penalty shootout to Sligo last season at the Tailteann Cup, and now again this year. Maybe it's tough to lose a penalty shootout, and you can have your own opinions about penalty shootouts and stuff like that, but maybe it's a sign that Andy Moore needs to get these players to practice penalties. Maybe. Yeah. I don't know, but it's a harsh criticism and all that, but they didn't score any penalties, did they, last night? So it's a difficult one. It really is a difficult one to lose out penalties. Like, we think it's difficult for Armagh losing out to Galway last year. Leitrim now lost 2 penalty shootouts in a row. That's difficult to take, and it's going to be difficult for those players. And Andy Moore, I think, deserves a bit more empathy than what he's getting at the moment.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think I would agree. Like, I think it's we could have easily been talking about a man who led Leitrim to a Tailteann Cup semi-final. They were very, very close to beating Sligo earlier in the year and getting back up to Division 3. So, yeah, I think when you look at it in the cold light of day, I think maybe there is an element of them being a little bit unlucky. We'll touch on this game briefly. Probably went the way I think a lot of people expected. Sligo 220, London 12 points. Obviously, this game being played in Ruislip over in London. Big win for Sligo, went as we expected. And I guess they'll play London and New York en route to a Connacht final. Kind of an unusual route from a Sligo perspective. But yeah, huge result and a big commanding win.
Yeah, huge win for Sligo. And I suppose, again, the highlight, and we mentioned it's sort of a weekly thing now, Aaron, where Pat Spillane gets the photo in Ruislip or New York or where he is. And, he meets up with the locals. And I'd say he's enjoying life, really, watching his son play. And while we're on his son in a series, 1-4 from play yesterday, which was an incredible performance, and definitely should be in Team of the Week this weekend, possibly even Player of the Week. Brilliant performance from Pat Spillane Jr. there. But, London, in the league, it probably just showed they're kind of out for depth, really. Even against Sligo, like they lost against Waterford in the league, which are one of the worst teams in the country. They lost against Carlow as well, another pretty bad team in the country. So I just think London a bit out of their depth, and Sligo, easy victory for them. And I think they won't, like New York, I think Sligo would definitely fancy their chances of beating New York, but at the same time, they'd definitely be prepared for them. I know, like, they probably weren't as prepared as they wished to be last season, but they definitely will be this time around. And I think Sligo will definitely get to a kind of final, as I probably predicted at the start of the season. And yeah, pot 2 in the All-Ireland series for Sligo is still a pretty good achievement. But then, as you said, rightfully there, to face London and New York to get to pot 2, maybe there's a bit of a bit of anger from every other county looking at that and saying, the Sligo in pot 2 because of beating 2 sides that are not even on the island in Ireland. But that's a discussion for another day. But very good win for Sligo. They're back at the road, and they're on form.
Absolutely, yeah. And I suppose moving on then into the Munster Championship, I suppose we'll start with the game that you were at in Ennis. So it's Clare 14 points, Cork 13 points. Big result for Clare. Obviously, was watching this not watching it, but keeping an eye on Scorpio. And I was saying to you, it looked like it was good for Cork, like they were leading for large parts in the game, but Clare come back, get a famous win, and the result I'm sure all Cork fans dreaded when they seen the championship draw. The fact that they were playing Clare away in Ennis, obviously a tough place to go for any side, and we've seen plenty of teams struggle down the years playing Clare. Most notably, even my own county, Dublin, probably should have got beat by Clare a couple of weeks ago. So big result for Clare, and for Cork, Tailteann Cup is not out of the realms of possibility.
Yeah, we could write a book at this stage of the failures of our football, to be honest, Aaron. It's a never-ending story. We talked about New York being a fairy tale. Cork is turning into a bit of a nightmare. But in all seriousness, well done to Clare. Brilliant victory for them. They definitely, and I said it to you off air, they just wanted it more today, and they got the win. Fair play to them. And you mentioned that they were lucky against Dublin. They were unlucky against Kildare. Few maybe referee decisions go against them, and they probably deserved that look. But to be honest, like even watching the game in full, it wasn't on TV. I was actually at the game, and Clare, they just wanted it more. They deserved a win. They took it to Cork. Their attackers, like every time Clare were on the attack, they were actually threatening the goal. Keelan Sexton, and if anybody was watching Sunday game, I don't know when this podcast will go out now, but if anyone was watching the Sunday game, keep an eye on Keelan Sexton's point in the second half, where he sends a dummy and puts it over the bar. Incredible point, and one of the points of the year. Definitely one to keep an eye out on the Sunday game. Owen Cleary, excellent performance from him with 4 points, and Clare forwards were on it today. Absolutely on it. Gavin Cooney coming on, getting a point, and Killian Ruan coming up all the way up the field and then fisting it over the bar to seal a monumental victory. Brilliant victory for Clare. But of course, there are 2 sides to every story, and I just think Cork were just off it. Just completely off it. The defense, to be honest, I know the Mayo game was a bit of a disaster, really showing the defensive side of things, conceding 3 goals. But defensively, I don't think we were that bad. But I just think attack-wise, we were so slow and pedestrian. Like, you look at Clare in comparison, they kick the ball right into the forwards, they turn, put it over the bar. Excellent play. With Cork, we get up to the 45-metre line and we turn around and hand pass it again. I've said this constantly on GAA Fan TV in the past, and nothing's been fixed. I don't know, like, it's a situation, like, Clare did perform well, but again, like, there's 2, like, Stephen Sherlock at 10 points out of a possible 13 today. That just shows you, we're too reliant on him to get us scores from free. Sean Powter, I don't know, Sean Powter's played well over the last few weeks. I don't know, he just looked a bit leggy, a bit tired. A lot of them just looked tired in the last few minutes, and it was a pale comparison from the Derry game in the last game, where we had the energy to go at Derry and got the late goal at the end, which we deserved. But today, we were just leggy, and Clare were fitter than us. And, it's a hard situation to be in at the end of a game where you lose this. And Tailteann Cup, as you rightly said, big possibility. We're now counting on Louth or Westmeath to beat Meath in Leinster, and Armagh to beat either Cavan or Down in Ulster as well. So big few weeks, and we're not involved in them. So it's a tense wait. And I say, before I move on to yourself and your comments, Aaron, but the Louth game a few weeks ago, that game, how crucial could that result be now? Because if we just won that game against Louth and took it a bit more seriously, maybe, then I think we kind of took our eyes off the pedal against Louth that day. And if we just put both eyes on that fixture, we wouldn't be looking over our shoulder. But because we lost that game and lost today, we're now looking over our shoulder. And we've only ourselves to blame, really, Aaron. And look, if we're in the Tailteann Cup, we can't have any complaints. Even today in the league performances, we can't have any complaints.
Yeah, like, and why is it, do you think, that Cork keep up this inconsistency? Because I think we've seen, like, in specific games, they have what it takes to perform against some of the best teams. I mean, they were very, very good against Dublin, as we obviously watched in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. We've seen them at times, you know, they comfortably beat Clare earlier in the league. They you know, put 6 goals past Limerick in the league. They fought back from the dead against Derry. And even going back in previous seasons, like we've seen Cork beat Kerry in the championship, but then lose to Tipperary a couple of weeks later. Like, there seems to be always just this inconsistency. And like, when you look at it, like, the underage players are there, like the under 20 players are there, like that, you know, you've had under 20 and minor success in the last couple of years. So it's not like the talent isn't there. Club level, Cork has usually always been very strong. I know you obviously have to compete with hurling, but like, there's plenty of players in the county, and not to take anything away from Clare. Like, I think, you know, in many ways, this result was probably coming for Clare. Like, they did so many good performances in the league. They were due, they were due something. They were due a big win. But from a Cork perspective, like, the inconsistency continues, and like, as a neutral, like, it's very hard to understand how, because when I watch them play against Dublin, I think they have a chance here, at getting to Division 1. But then you look at them in these performances, and at times you think, you know, they could be going down to Division 3. Like, it's bizarre really watching them at the best of times.
And the Dublin game that we watched, obviously live in your channel, live watching on, brilliant watching on, by the way, that was. But when you look at that Dublin game compared to today, the difference was so big. With Dublin, we were kicking the ball into the forwards, we were turning our defenders. Like, we commented on how much Chris O'Jones spun Cian Murphy that day. Like, I don't know how many times he did that, maybe 5-6 times that day. But today, he just wasn't getting the ball. No surface. And I don't know, like, we sometimes play a system where we just kick the ball intricately into the forwards, bang, back of the net or over the bar. And it's quick, intricate play. It's absolutely brilliant to watch. But sometimes it's slow and pedestrian. It was slow and pedestrian against Meath. Slow and pedestrian today. It was slow and pedestrian against Derry up until when Derry lost a bit of energy, and then Cork get a bit of confidence in that game as well. Like, it's the frustration really that kills Jaron, the inconsistencies. But to be honest, like, the Clare game, as you mentioned, like, I was nervous all week. I know Darragh was saying that Cork need to win this game on their podcast during the week, but I could see this coming. I could see Clare just turning up for today because of the fact, like, if they had lost today, they would have been in the Tailteann Cup. And Cork players must have thought about that at the back of their minds. And it didn't seem like there was an urge today to go on and win it. And that was the key thing for me. And usually after a game, like, a load of biased fans would say, okay, a referee decision and stuff like that went against us and we were kind of unlucky. But today, looking at the performances from both sides, Clare deserved it because they just wanted it more. And that was the difference today. And it's a difficult one. It really is a difficult one. And the amazing thing is, Aaron, if we get lucky now and be in a Sam Maguire group, we could be in a group with, say, I don't know, we could be in with, say, I don't know, Mayo, Tyrone, or somebody like that in an All-Ireland group, and then put up a miraculous performance. That's Cork in a nutshell. Like, you know, you don't know what to expect from them. I think neutrals are getting really confused about their performances, and yeah, rightly so about Cork. And yeah, it's a tough one to take. It really is a tough defeat to take. And yeah, John Cleary needs a lot of fixing over the next few weeks. And the waiting is the big thing. Is the most nerve-wracking thing, because we could be in the Sam Maguire Cup or the Tailteann Cup. At least with Mayo's loss against Roscommon, they know they're in the Sam Maguire. We have weeks to prepare for this. With Cork, it's the unknown. And we only have ourselves to blame, as I said, Aaron. And Yeah, it's going to be a tough few days for John Clare and his players, definitely. But while we're on Clare as well, we have to give Clare credit. Absolutely brilliant performance all over the field. Pierce Liz did a man marking job as Sean Poulter today. Brilliant performance from defenders up until the attackers. Brilliant. Jamie Malone at centre back playing this free role, excellent. Scored a brilliant point as well. So Clare, you have to give them credit. Excellent performance from them. But for Cork, yet again, we're asking the question, where do they go from here?
Yeah. And as you said, like, you can't not speak about how well Clare performed, and obviously, getting the result, turning around late on, and it feels like Clare, like when you've looked at sort of the body of work that Com Collins has done with Clare in the last couple of seasons, keeping them up in Division 2. Obviously, couldn't quite do that this year, but making them a consistent team in Division 2, very close to getting up to Division 1 on a couple of occasions as well. I suppose the main thing has been getting to a Munster final, or trying to do something big in the Munster Championship. And look, I don't think anyone expects them to be Kerry if you presume that's who they would play in the Munster final if they get over Limerick. But you just look at it and think, if any side or any team deserves that moment, it's definitely Clare, because they've given so much down the years to their supporters. And I don't think they've played in a Munster final under Com Collins off the top of my head. I might be wrong on that. So I think now the fact that they have an opportunity, and look, Limerick will be waiting in the wings, I'm sure. Limerick will want to spoil the party, but given how Limerick have performed this year, it's a huge opportunity now for the Banner County.
It is, and a stat that will probably boil your brain. Clare haven't reached the Munster final despite their success since 2012, and that was actually the last time Cork won a Munster title. So there you go. But and that was, I don't know who was in charge of Clare that time. It was a manager. Then Mick O'Dwyer came in for 13, and then it was Collins in 14. But Clare have been very, very unlucky over the last few seasons, because they always seem to draw Kerry in the Munster Championship, and they just got unlucky in years gone by. Last year was a big opportunity for them, I thought, and they lost to Limerick on penalties. That would have seen them play Tipperary in the semi-final, but this year, huge opportunity. It's all well and good, like, brilliant performance. Their fans wanted it today. Like, their fans were nearly emotional today. And in fairness, you have to feel delighted for Clare. At the same time, yeah, I was disappointed that Cork lost it in the end, but delighted for the Clare fans, because, as you said rightfully, they deserved it, and fair play to them for doing that. But yeah, they have to go on and beat Limerick now. They have the players like Eamon McMahon, Owen Cleary, if you were Pierce Lillis, Dermot Collin in midfield today. And while we're on midfield, Darren O'Neill, he came on at half time, and they were down 6-4 at half time. He changed the game completely. 6'6", monster of a player. Came on, changed the game completely in midfield. Cork struggled and Clare drove on. Brilliant performance from him. Like, Jamie Malone has definitely revitalised himself as centre back. So, but the key thing is for Clare to dust themselves down now, beat Limerick in that semi-final. And to be honest, I'm probably an advocate for Limerick football, because I'm studying in UL at the moment, as you know. But I'd love if Clare reached the Munster final, because, as you rightfully said, they deserve it. Absolutely deserve it. Like, if Limerick and Tipperary can reach the Munster final, or Cork over the last few seasons, why can't Clare? And they absolutely deserve it. They deserve to be in the Sam Maguire. And ultimately, I thought they were very, very unlucky to go down to Division 3. And yeah, Colin Collins, what a job he's doing. And before we move on, like, when you look at the players, like, I think Paul Kerrigan mentioned this on the Red FM podcast that I was listening to earlier today. He had players like Gary Brennan, David Tuberty, all them leave and retire and whatnot. He's brought in these new breed of players like Daniel Walsh, Emma McMahon. It's keep rolling on and on. And he's inspiring Clare footballers to go on and on in the next few seasons. And that's a credit to Colin Collins himself. What a job he's done. And hopefully Clare reach a Munster final, because it's the least they deserve.
Absolutely. No, it definitely is. Like, and yeah, like, I think as a pot 2 team, they'd have 2 home games as well. Am I correct in saying that? So, like, for Clare to go into the group stage as well and have 2 home games, like, that's that's not easy for teams like going down to Ennis, whether it be a Dublin or obviously it couldn't be Kerry, but the likes of an Ulster side, or even the Connacht champions, whether it be Roscommon or Galway. It's not exactly easy or inconceivable that like going to Ennis and going away to Clare, in fairness. The other game in Munster was Tipperary 3-9, Waterford 1-11, Stephen O'Brien with 1-3, Stephen Quirk scored 1-1, and Sean O'Connor with 2 points. Dara Corcoran hit 1-4 for Waterford. But yeah, like I suppose I know, like I think you were saying even you fancied Waterford to pull off the shock here. And to be fair, from looking at it on Score BO, like it was a fairly even game for large parts. Probably could have went either way, but Tipperary get the victory in the end. Believe their first win of the year as well. So they go on and play Kerry. So definitely not much of a reward there from a Tipperary perspective. But I'm sure for Tip fans, they're happy with the win. Kind of. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's a hard one, really. We were discussing on my podcast as well, and same we'll get on to Laois and Wexford in a minute as well. Like, it's kind of a meaningless game considering who they're going to play next. Kerry. I thought Waterford would win it because they'd be more up for it, and it looked that way. Like, you look at the scoreline, definitely Waterford could easily pull off the surprise. But the main Achilles heel for Waterford, they only 3 different scores today, and ultimately an inter-county level, that's not really good enough. So, yeah, probably deservedly so that Tip won the game. Stephen O'Brien, excellent performance from him with 1-3. They got the 3 goals today, and they deserved it. But maybe a small bit of a moral victory for Waterford before we move on. Same amount of scores as Tipperary. So I don't think Waterford fans would have expected that start. But yeah, enough of my crazy predictions and stuff like that. We better move on. But yeah, I just said, you know what? I said it on the JMAC podcast. I'll say it again. That Waterford win it. You know, you live once for these predictions, and I just said, you know what? I'll try this prediction and see how it goes. But ultimately, it fell flat on my face. And thankfully, Aaron, I'm not a betting man. So there you go.
Yeah, me too, because I predicted Mayo and Leitrim to play in the Connacht final, and both of them got knocked out in the quarterfinals. So, also fancied Cork to be clear as well. So, I think my predictions, I think I got all my Leinster predictions correct, thankfully. But yeah, a lot of the other ones did back for, unfortunately. But moving on anyway to the Ulster Championship, Armagh 20 points, Antrim 1A. Yeah, a routine win really for Armagh, a result that we probably expected. They were missing a couple of players, Rian O'Neill, Charlie O'Burns, but look, they stood up, got the win, done what they had to do, and on to the men from Cavan.
Yeah, it was an improved performance from Armagh, but you're thinking, you know what? Is it the level that Armagh need to be at last night, really? I know, like, it was a brilliant performance for him scoring 20 points. Conor Turbot, excellent for him scoring 8 points. Shane McParlin was brilliant in midfield, scoring 4 points. They were dominant in this game, really, and only really got a scare when Conor Stewart got that goal for Antrim, and you were thinking, is there a comeback here? But then Armagh scored the next 5 or 6 points in the spin, and the game's over. Simple as that. But yeah, it's a tough one to take for Antrim because we said it about Leitrim having a 28% accuracy for play. Antrim had 29%, which isn't much better, really. And Cork and Munster as well at 31%, which kind of begs the question, what are they actually doing in training, these teams? You know, if they're not going to kick accuracy from play. But yeah, brilliant performance from Armagh, but at the end of the day, you're thinking, is this going to really help them for the Cavan game? I would suggest not, because Antrim, unfortunately, are just not at that level, and they'll move on to the Tailteann Cup now. And hopefully we'll get a scalp or two, but they're not going to come close to winning, are they?
No, I don't think so. I think they're a good bit off, in fairness. But moving on to the Leinster Championship, then there was obviously 3 quarterfinals that took place. Starting with Longford 1-11, Offaly 1-12. We were saying on your show during the week that Offaly only beat Longford by a point when they played each other in the league, and that proved to be the same as well. I was looking at a match report on GAA. I think Bernard Allen scored the winning point in the end coming off the bench. So big result for Offaly, bit of a scare, and it definitely would have been a bit of a setback had they have lost this game, but they come through it, they get the win, and on to Meath.
Yeah, and it was all about getting out of the Glen Brothers Pierce Park for Offaly today, because you mentioned as well in my show that Longford, Glen Brothers Pierce Park, it will level it out completely. Like Offaly, there's no doubting they have the better players, better coaches and things like that, and they just have the better strength conditioning. But Longford at home is going to be a hard place to go, and we knew that going into this game. And so it proved, but brilliant for Offaly just to get out of there with a win, move on to the next game now against Meath. And in a game, I actually think that Offaly have a big chance of winning that game. I know because of the clear result today, Meath would definitely be up for that game now, because if they lose that game, they're out and they're in the Tailteann Cup. I'm not sure Colin O'Rourke would want that. But let's not forget as well, in Division 2 last season, but for a bit of a controversial square ball, Offaly should have beaten Meath in Division 2. So I'm telling you, Offaly could easily put off the shot against Meath. As for Longford, close but no cigar today. But a lot of people think Longford will go on a run at the Tailteann Cup in the semi-finals. I'm not sure where I read this comment or somewhere, but look at their players and look at Paddy Christie as a manager. I definitely would fancy their chances maybe to get to a semi-final. And if they perform as well as they did today, there's always a chance. So Longford will go in to the Tailteann Cup with a bit more confidence under their belts, but Offaly will now roll on to Meath, and I think genuinely, Aaron, they have a big chance of beating them.
Yeah, and I suppose the other game, or one of the other games in the Leinster Championship, was Wicklow 2-12, Carlow 10 points. Looking at it there, Owen Darcy scoring 1 goal and 2 points, Kevin Quinn with 4 points, Malachi Stone with a crucial goal as well. And I was just obviously we're recording this podcast, obviously not live for a change, just because my internet's been acting up all day, so we decided not to do it live this time around. But Sunday game was on in the background, and I seen Owen Darcy's goal. It was an empty net, and he just absolutely hammered it into the back of the net, and it nearly looked like he missed it. It looked close to actually hitting the crossbar, so that would have been a bit of a disaster. But the game was already done anyway because the goalkeeper wasn't in the goal. But good win for Wicklow and for Oisin McConville, and I suppose Kildare are up next.
Yeah, brilliant win for Wicklow, and a comfortable win really against a poor enough Carlow team, and a good victory for Oisin McConville and his players. Malachi Stone getting a goal, which really set them on their way, and a brilliant victory for Wicklow. Oisin McConville doing a brilliant job for his Wicklow manager, and the Division 4 campaign has really got them in good stead for the championship. So well done to Wicklow for winning, and they definitely have a chance for Kildare. And before we move on, why didn't Owen Darcy just blast it against the barn? Because you would have had a comedic aspect there, and you would have been something to laugh about in the Sunday game, and put up a clip or something on social media. But no, he wanted to be more serious, just put it in the back of the net. But in all seriousness, good victory for Wicklow. But bit disappointed in Owen in not being a sort of a comedian there towards the end.
Yeah, I don't know. Like maybe you should have just let the ball bounce on the ground and just head it in, like back in the day. You do obviously with your mates, to be fair. But yeah, some people maybe would say that's taking things a little bit too far. But in fairness, yeah, great result for Wicklow, and who knows? You know, maybe those goal scoring abilities could definitely come in against Kildare in the quarterfinals. Looking at the last game, then obviously of the weekend in the Leinster Championship, it was Laois 2-17, Wexford 2-13. Big result in the end from a Laois perspective. A very high scoring game, so like it sounds like this was a bit of a cracking game. See, Mark Barry scored 2-4, Ben Brosnan with 1-7 for Wexford. But big win for Laois, and I suppose they have an easy one next in Dublin.
Yeah, it's going to be an absolutely cinch game, and Wicklow should win by 10 points in that game, but or Laois, should I say? Long night, Aaron. Very good victory for Laois. In fairness, like Mark Barry scored 2-4, Evan O'Carroll 6 points, and Paul Kingston 4 points. They were the 3 players on form for Laois in the league, and it's so approved in the game today. Ben Brosnan did well for Wexford, and Wexford put up a fight, but in fairness, you're like, it's the same as the Tipperary and Waterford game. You're like, looking at this game and looking at the result and looking at what it means, you're thinking, what does this game actually mean? It means getting a hammering off Dublin. And I'm like, okay, like, is it going to actually boost confidence for Laois? Is it actually a better result for Wexford here? Because Wexford will be going into more confidence into the Tailteann Cup. It's an interesting opinion, but it was a bit of a meaningless game when you look at the meaning around it. But at the end of the day, very good victory for Laois, and good scores from the 3 lads up front.
Yeah, like maybe the only good thing it is that it's good for local businesses in Port Laois, like with the Dublin fans travelling up, and for home fans. But yeah, it's probably like that's like a small positive maybe. I think in terms of actually the footballing element, like I think I think, yeah, like the really can't be any positives from a Laois perspective. But nonetheless, great result for them, and yeah, maybe I might make the trip down to Portlaoise to watch the Dubs and Laois in action.
Yeah, and I'd say if you're going down to Portlaoise, Aaron, look at the scarecrows. There's a good good few scarecrows over there. Nice chippers as well. So nice few holiday destinations there. Nice few sites as well. And Portlaoise is a nice stadium. It has a car park right next to the ground, so very handy for Dublin fans to just park there, go into the ground. So pretty good stadium for Dublin fans to go in. But ultimately, as a result, as a match itself, it probably won't mean anything. But yeah, at least you'll get to see the scarecrow. So good luck with that.
There we go. Yeah, I was in Port Ireland once before. I don't think it was in Portlaoise, but yeah, definitely an interesting place, and I certainly have no plans to go back there anytime soon. But maybe going to Portlaoise would be a bit of a trip, in fairness. But yeah, I suppose before we wrap things up, then what would you say was your player of the week and I suppose moment of the week?
Player of the week, I'm probably going to go Keelan Sexton. 4 points for Clare, 4 points for play. Excellent point as well in the second half where he sold the dummy. I'm not sure which Cork defender he sold the dummy to, but excellent point outside of the boot as well. Well worth a watch, and the RT highlights, I think they're going to show them on YouTube as well if anyone's not watching the Sunday game. So like a bit like Sky Sports or something. So that's pretty good that RT are actually doing that before we end the pod here. And moment of the week, I know you're going to say the New York game, so I'm just going to go for the Roscommon game, just to go with something different. Roscommon beating Mayo. So, yeah, those are my moment of the weekend, player of the week.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I don't think you can look past New York's win. In fairness, I think it could be moment of the year. It could definitely be one of the big GAA moments when we get to the end of 2023. But yeah, I'd probably go with Shane Carthy, maybe as player of the week. I think German Murtha as well. Definitely a good show. But maybe I'll go with Shane Carthy, I suppose, as an ex-Dublin footballer. But yeah, we'll go ahead and wrap this up here. Cheers, Matthew, very much for coming on. And yeah, I'm sure we'll hear from you soon. And yeah, make sure to check out the GAA Statsman podcast when anyone gets a chance. And yeah, cheers for coming on.
Thanks very much, Aaron. And Tailteann Cup content is coming your way, so tune in for that.
Happy days. We might get you on maybe for the preview or something of the Tailteann Cup, Cork versus Waterford local derby, maybe in round 1.
Yeah, battle of the seaside. So yeah, thanks for having me on, Ian.